Hey guys, welcome back. In this video, we're going to learn about Python functions. So what is function? A function is a mini program that we can toss into our code and make things easier to read and simpler to understand. Let's take a look at how they work. Okay, so here you see we have defined a function. Okay, how do we define a function? We define it by using a keyword def, okay, which is this def, and then followed by naming our function. So here we have named our function func1, okay, and then followed by parenthesis and then colon. This is the syntax of defining a function. And then inside the function gets the code, the body of the function. This print statement, I am learning Python function. This is the body of the function, okay. So this entire box is the function definition, okay. So function is a block of code that only runs when it is called. Okay. So here you see the function one, this thing which is written over here in this box, this is the function call. Without this, the function that we have defined, it will not get executed. So it is necessary to call a function in order for it to get executed. Okay, so now let's look at an example. Um, we'll define a function, maybe world, okay, and then we'll print a statement, hello world, okay. So basically we have defined a function over here. Let's execute it. Let's just run the code and just see what happens. So you saw nothing happened. Why is it so? Because we have just defined the function and we have not actually called it inside our code, okay. So for this function to actually get executed, we have to call it, right? So we'll just call our function, which is world, like this. So here we have called our function. Now let's execute it. So you see that we called our function in our main program, and then this function definition actually it gets executed, it prints the statement like this. So this is what I explained you just now. Now there are more to functions. Basically, what happens if we pass some data inside these parentheses? Those data, we call them parameters. Okay, we pass in data into the function, they are called parameters. When these are passed in the function, the code inside the function manipulate the data and then return a value. Here we saw an example of a print statement. Okay, this is not actually returning a value, it's just printing, it is just executing what's inside our code of the function. Okay, we are not really returning a value in this. We'll see an example eventually, but for now just I'm explaining you that whatever data we pass into the function inside these parentheses, we call them parameters. Okay, and these parameters basically correspond to another value. The data we pass inside these parentheses when we call a function, uh, those are called arguments. Okay, because of these parameters we actually have to pass in data into this function, and here we call it arguments. Arguments are what you pass into a function when you call it. Okay, now in a function, the number of arguments you pass in has to be equal to the number of parameters that are defined within the function when you create the function. Okay, so now we'll see uh, the example when a function is actually returning a value. Okay, you need to use the return keyword to actually return data. Okay, so let's just define a function, um, add 1. Okay, and then inside this parenthesis I pass a parameter x. Basically what this function will do, it will just add 1, okay, to the data that we pass. So we return x plus 1 in this function. Okay, so we have defined a function, basically add 1. You can figure out from the name what it does. Okay, and we define y. and it takes the value of, basically 5 is the argument here, okay, the data that we pass inside when we call a function. So we are calling the function add1, and we are assigning y to the value whatever the statement is returned, okay. I want y to be whatever the result of this function add1 is on argument 5. Okay, so we defined a function add1, which will basically add 1 to whatever parameter has been passed, whatever data has been given to the function, and then y is what we want to be the result of the function add1 is on argument 5. Okay, and then we are simply printing y. So let's just run the function code. Okay, so you see our output is 6 because, so let's see what's happening here. Basically, y, for the value y, we have called the function add1 and we pass the argument 5. It goes here in the function definition. It acts on the parameter x, which is 5 here. Okay, and then it is returning 5 plus 1 value 6. Okay, it returns this value and then it prints y. Okay, we returned a value for y and then y is printed. But what if instead of return, it was print here? If we were printing x plus 1, what would have happened instead? Okay, let's just run it and see. So you see, we have got the output 6 and this none. Where does this none come from? Basically, if you see what's happening here is that we called the function, it went here, okay, and then it printed 6. It printed 6, but it didn't return any value to y, okay, because we didn't use the return keyword, right? So this function did not return any value to y. So that's why when we were trying to print y, it shows none, because there is nothing we returned to get into the value of y. So this is the difference between printing a normal statement or printing any value inside the function and actually returning a value from that function. So this is how functions are used. For now, keep learning and keep practicing. Bye bye.